Today's lesson is What do you know about coriander? Hi everybody, my name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're talking about the wonderful world of food. And of course, if you eat food, well, it's nice and tasty if you have beef or bread or chicken or something like that. But one way to make it tastier is to use herbs and spices. So today we're going to talk about a special kind of herb or a spice. It's called coriander. And I must admit, I don't think I really had this until I came to Taiwan, and it was an acquired taste. I didn't like it at first, but later I grew to appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not really popular in America. Well, I mean the United States, although it's quite popular in Mexican cuisine. You can taste cilantro or coriander quite often in Mexican dishes, and I think also in some South American dishes.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson, and we'll come back to discuss it.
What do you know about coriander? Its leaves are used to garnish many dishes, and its dried seeds add a depth of flavor to curries and sauces. Yes, we're talking about coriander, which is grown and consumed all around the world. But there's much more to this humble plant than meets the eye, so let's take a closer look.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 garnish 这个字是动词，指在食物上加装饰菜，或者是用菜来点缀食物，像是 garnish the dish with coriander before serving。这道菜端上桌之前，上面配些香菜点缀一下，或是 Penny added a cookie on the ice cream and garnished it with mint leaves。Penny 添加一片饼干在冰淇淋上，并使用薄荷叶装饰。接着我们看到片语 be more to somebody or something than meets the eye， 指的是某人事物不只是表面上看起来的样子，或者是不容小觑。举例来说 The thing seems simple, but there's more to it than meets the eye。 这件事看似简单，但实际上复杂许多，或是 Although Betty is a child, but she's more than meets the eye。 虽然 Betty 是个小孩，但她不容小觑。
So today we're talking about coriander, and the first sentence in the first paragraph is a description of how it's used. Its leaves are used to garnish many dishes, and its dried seeds add a depth of flavor to curries and sauces. So the first sentence suggests that coriander or cilantro comes in two forms. You can use its leaves, you can use it to garnish many dishes, and its dried seeds add a depth of flavor to curries and sauces.
Okay, so again, sometimes when you serve food, you want it to look nice, especially if you're serving in a nice restaurant or you just want to make your family happy. You might garnish those dishes. Garnish here is being used as a verb, but it can also be used as a noun. It's just something put on the plate to make it look better. Sometimes people will garnish the plate with maybe a flower or something like that, or in the United States, it's common to see a piece of parsley on the plate. That's a green kind of plant that is similar to coriander. And again, they're just kind of there for a decoration. I suppose you could eat them if you want to. It would be foolish to put something poisonous on your plate like that for decoration, but most people don't eat the garnish. It's just there for decoration.
That's right. Yes, we're talking about coriander, which is grown and consumed all around the world. So in Taiwan, we are very familiar with coriander, but it's actually an herb that is grown around the world. So many countries grow it, and people in many countries also consume coriander. So here the word consume means to eat or to use.
Indeed. So we kind of introduced this topic to you, and now we're coming straight to the point, and we're talking about coriander. And again, it is consumed all around the world. And to consume just means to use something or to eat something. In this case, it means to eat something. But if you're talking about people in society using products and services, we say they are consumers. But here, consume is being used to mean you're eating coriander, not as the main dish, of course. You're adding it to other dishes to give them a little pep, a little flavor. And again, it's all over the place. But there's much more to this humble plant than meets the eye. So let's take a closer look. Now, in this sentence, we have the phrase, to be more than meets the eye. Okay, so this is a common phrase to indicate something is not as simple as it appears, okay? You might look at something, but there's more things you need to learn about that thing. And so that's why we're saying there's more to meet the eye with coriander, because indeed, there's a lot to say about it. It's not just a little garnish.
Right, and you can also use this phrase to talk about people. You can say that there's much more to Stanley than meets the eye. So Stanley might seem like a normal fellow, but he's actually very smart, and he's actually very successful, or he's actually very talented. Basically, he has qualities that you can't see immediately. So there's much more to that person than meets the eye.
Of course, this reminds me of an old cartoon that I saw when I was younger, the Transformers, the original cartoon series. The theme song had the line, "The Transformers, more than meets the eye." They look like robots, but they can change into trucks and cars and stuff like that. So indeed, there's more than meets the eye with the Transformers. That's an example here. But coriander, of course, is a very complicated plant, and we're going to talk about some of the details as our lesson continues. So let's do that. Let's move on now to the next part. We've got an interesting question here. Just what is coriander? Is it an herb or a spice? Let's listen.
Is it an herb or a spice? Actually, coriander is both. Herbs come from a plant's leaves, and spices are produced from its seeds, roots, or bark. Since coriander leaves and seeds are both edible, the plant falls into both categories. In North America, however, cilantro is the common name for coriander leaves, while coriander is used for the seeds.
第二部分，我们看到名词 herb 表示香草或者是药草。例如 Rita grows many types of herbs in her garden. Rita 在她的花园里种植了多种香草，或是 fresh herbs and spices were added to the stew to make it taste better. 炖菜中加入了新鲜的香草和香料，让其味道更好。另外，把这个字的字尾加上 y， 就变成了 herby， 它有草本的意思。举例来说 ，The ointment has a light and herby smell. 这个软膏有淡淡的草本味，或者 This seasoning is nice and herby. 这个调味料很不错，有草本的味道。接着我们看到单字 edible， 这个字是形容词，表示可食用的。例如 The berries are edible and taste very good. 这种莓果可以吃，而且很美味。或者Those edible mushrooms taste nice if they're boiled. 那些可食用的蘑菇煮熟之后很美味。
And welcome back. So the first question, or the first point that we're going to talk about is it an herb or a spice? Now, an herb is a plant that is used for adding flavor to food or that is used as medicine. So other examples of herbs could be rosemary, thyme, and also sage, parsley. These are all herbs that are used to add a special flavor to soups, to dishes, any kind of dishes. And a spice is usually something else that we can add to improve the flavor of a dish. However, spices are not in the form of leaves or plants. They're usually the harder part of a plant. So the question here is coriander considered an herb or a spice?
And remember, an herb is referring to the plants that are used in medicines or as a flavoring for food. And the American pronunciation is herb, whereas in the UK, I think you'll hear herb more often. So yeah, the question is it an herb or a spice? And actually, coriander is both. Coriander is both an herb and a spice. Herbs come from a plant's leaves, and spices are produced from its seeds, roots, or bark. So that is the essential difference there between an herb and a spice. Herbs come from the leaves, and the spices are from the harder parts of the plant, the seeds, the roots, or the bark. The bark is just the skin of a plant, the 树皮, as you say in Chinese.
Right, and since coriander leaves and seeds are both edible means that something can be eaten, the plant falls into both categories. So since coriander leaves and seeds can both be eaten, the plant, coriander, falls into both categories. So a category here refers to a group of things, or it can also refer to a group of people that have similar qualities. So coriander can belong to both the category of herb and the category of spice.
Exactly. So again, categories are different areas of a certain subject. Like, for example, if you're going to keep a budget of your daily expenses, you need to put your expenses into different categories. Like here's the column for transportation, for food, for entertainment. Those are different categories of your personal budget. And again, we've got these two categories of herbs and spices. And in North America, however, cilantro is the common name for coriander leaves, while coriander is used for the seeds. Okay, I've only heard coriander here in Taiwan, and I have heard the word cilantro, but I don't really remember this being a big part of my diet when I was growing up. So that's basically the difference in North America. Everywhere else, I think coriander is just going to be used for everything, but cilantro will be used in North America to refer to the leaves.
That's right. And a word about the phrasal verb to fall into. Here, fall into means to be able to be divided into several groups. So something can fall into one category or one group, or it can fall into multiple categories or groups. So that's just a simple way of saying to be divided into.
Okay, so we just answered the question, is it an herb or a spice? Well, it's both, actually. And now we have another topic. It's all about the history of coriander. Let's listen to the third part right now.
It has a long history. Coriander is believed to have originated in Central Asia, and the earliest archaeological evidence of its use goes as far back as 9,000 years. Ancient Egyptians and Greeks cultivated coriander for its perfume and medicinal properties. The Romans introduced coriander to Britain, where it was widely used in cooking. Then, in the 17th century, Europeans brought coriander to America, where it became one of the first herbs to be locally cultivated.
第三部分，我们看到动词 cultivate 指的是种植或者是栽培。例如 The people of this village cultivate mainly rice, beans, and corn. 这个村子的人主要种植水稻、豆类和玉米。也可以说 Most farmers in the region cultivate grapes for wine. 那个地区的大部分农民都栽培葡萄来酿酒。最后我们看到单字 medicinal， 这个字是形容词，表示药用的或者是用于治疗的，像是People in the village think the waters in this lake have medicinal properties. 村里的人认为这个湖泊的水有药用价值，或是 Legend has it that the spring water can be used for medicinal purposes. 传说这泉水可以用于药用。
So the title of the third part is It Has a Long History, and we're still talking about coriander. So coriander has a long history. Coriander is believed to have originated in Central Asia, and the earliest archaeological evidence of its use goes as far back as 9,000 years. So, first of all, it is believed that coriander came from Central Asia. So, Central Asia is that part of the world that is today considered to be Turkey, Afghanistan, that part of the world that in between Europe and the Middle East and Asia. So, coriander comes from that part of the world. It originated in that part of the world.
Okay, so it's been around for quite some time, and the earliest archaeological evidence of its use goes as far back as 9,000 years. So if you talk about archaeology, you're talking about the study of old things, 考古学, as you say in Chinese. And the adjective of this word is kind of hard to say, archaeological, having to do with archaeology. So the earliest archaeological evidence goes way back to 9,000 years. So, of course, we've got archaeologists who study these sorts of things, and they have found evidence of coriander being used as long ago as 9,000 years. So evidence here is proof that something is the case. Of course, if you're investigating a crime scene, you want to look for evidence, spent bullet cases, fingerprints, DNA samples. Those would be examples of evidence at a crime scene. And here the use goes back to 9,000 years, goes as far back as 9,000 years. My goodness, that's even older than China.
That's true. And later on, ancient Egyptians and Greeks cultivated coriander for its perfume and medicinal properties. So, ancient Egyptians and Greeks cultivated coriander. To cultivate means to grow crops or plants, usually in large amounts. So, if you have a coriander plant on your windowsill in your apartment, that's not really considered cultivating. You're growing a coriander plant. Cultivating means growing a large quantity of something. So the ancient Egyptians and Greeks cultivated coriander, and the reason they did that was to take advantage of its perfume and medicinal properties.
Yep, they actually grew it themselves. They had farms that produced coriander, so they cultivated coriander because they liked the way it smelled, so they used it in perfumes. And it also had medicinal properties. Medicinal means having to do with medicines. So, of course, they used it to cure various illnesses, probably featured in Chinese medicine or other types of herbal medicine. At least the Egyptians and the Greeks used it for that purpose. And, of course, we're talking about its medicinal properties. And properties are the characteristics of something. And, of course, you could talk about properties in terms of, say, chemicals. They have certain properties where they become a gas at a certain temperature. They freeze at a certain temperature. The atomic number is such and such. Those are properties of, say, a chemical element.
That's right. Now, later on, the Romans introduced coriander to Britain, where it was widely used in cooking. So during the Roman Empire, well, Britain was part of the Roman Empire. So if Romans had knowledge of coriander, they were using it, eating it, of course, that's going to spread to Britain as well. And in Britain, people started using coriander in cooking. So not only as a medicine or for its perfume, but they were eating it because it tasted good.
Right, so the Romans went up to the British Isles there and said, here, you guys, check this out. Do you like it? Well, it's kind of weird, but we'll try it. And eventually the people in Britain liked it, and then it was widely used in cooking. Then in the 17th century, which would be the 1600s, Europeans brought coriander to America, where it became one of the first herbs to be locally cultivated. So as you know, Europeans colonized great parts of North and South America. America does refer to all areas of the Western Hemisphere, including North and South America and the Caribbean islands. That's all part of America, sometimes referred to as the Americas. But Europeans brought coriander to America. This could be referring specifically to the United States, but it could also be referring to Canada, Central America, South America, etc.
That's right. And once coriander arrived in America, we could say that it really took over the world. It was everywhere. It's something that's easy to grow. It adds a special flavor to foods, no matter which food you're talking about. So it's become a very, very popular herb.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to Hanny, our beloved Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分的最后一句提到，香菜这种不起眼的植物不只是表面看起来的样子。 There's much more to this humble plant than meets the eye. 好，这个句型 There's more to somebody or something than meets the eye 字面意思就是某人或某事物比眼睛看到的更多，那是用来表达某人或某事物它不只是表面上看起来的样子，不容小觑。那么 I 在这边呢，固定用单数型。举例来说 There's more to the problem than meets the eye. 这个问题呀，不是表面上看起来那么简单，这意味着它其实是更复杂、更难应付的。我们也补充一个相关句型 There is more to somebody or something than ... 这表示某人或某事物不仅仅是什么什么而已。好，那这个句型常常用来强调某事物它有深藏不露的特质啊，或是某人他有更多的内涵能力等等。这个 more 的前面还可以加入修饰的字词来加强语气，像是 much more, so much more, a lot more, far more 等等。举例来说 There's so much more to Paris than the Eiffel Tower. 巴黎并不是只有埃菲尔铁塔而已。好，那接着看到课文第三部分有一个句子提到，古埃及人和希腊人种香菜是为了它的香气和药用特性。文中用动词 cultivate 来表达种植、栽培。我们来学它的字首字根。好 ，cult 这个字根它表示耕种，那么后面的 iv 是来自 ive 是形容词字尾。那在后面的 ate 则是动词字尾，合在一起 cultivate 就表示耕作、种植，它也带有那种培养啊、陶冶的意思。我们顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 culture， 它的字根 cult 表示耕种，那么 ure 是名词字尾，那么 culture 这个字它就是从耕种演变成涵养，那到了19世纪初才开始用来表达文化。我们如果在 culture 前面加上字首 sub， 它就有次于啊，在什么什么以下、附属或是低于等等的语义，那么 subculture 就表示次文化的意思。第二个是 agriculture， 它的字首 agri 表示农业、土壤，那么字根 cult 表示耕种， ure 则是名词字尾，把它们合在一起 agriculture 就表示农业咯。好，那第三个补充的是 aquaculture， 它的字首 aqua 表示水或是液体，那么后面的字根 cult 是耕种， ure 是名词字尾，把它合在一起 aquaculture 就是水产养殖的意思咯。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Consume. People who consume a lot of red meat are more likely to get heart disease. Herb. Some fresh herbs would really improve this dish. Category. The fighters were placed into different weight categories for the event. Perfume. Judy likes to spray on some perfume before leaving her house. Medicinal. This plant has a number of medicinal uses. Property. The properties of gold make it an excellent choice for jewelry.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.